Hello and welcome to the last video. In this video I will be talking about wildlings, which is a temporary name. This map was created because I was unhappy with my previous work, that being Border Dispute. So I took the elements that Border Dispute had and implemented them in a different way into this map, a way that I myself would enjoy playing more. Those elements being tug of war, diplomacy and nomads. The way I introduced them into this game mode was that there is one pre-established kingdom, that being the orange player, and then five nomadic people, that being the red player, the blue player, the purple player, the green player, and lastly, the teal player. The way the tug of war works is that the orange player wants to keep control over his land, and the nomadic players of course wants to claim the land for himself. The way diplomacy is introduced is that the nomads can of course do diplomacy with each other, or maybe they want to do some diplomacy with the orange player. Now, as you can see on the map down here, this map is not finished yet, and that is because I lost motivation to finish the map because I didn't really have anyone to playtest it with. However, this is still the best work I have done. Let's show you some of the level designing that I've done, which you can already see is much better than my previous work. Not only is there a mix of the ground texture, there is a different type of ground texture here, here, a bit of everywhere, but also there are now more hills introduced and the rocks introduced, which breaks up the monotony of all of the trees that are the same model. And this is the same for most of the areas, where I have thrown in some variety into the mix so that everything doesn't look the same. And of course we have the islands in this map, which is a massive improvement compared to my previous work. Still has some of the problems with being mostly the same grass texture, as you can see, but there is still there is still some variety here and there, at least with the models that are placed on top of the islands. Now let's talk about some of the triggers that I made. Firstly, I'm going to talk about this right here. This is a custom resource collection trigger that I made for this map. The reason I made this was because the people I usually play with do not enjoy the type of resource collecting that Age of Empires has. So I decided to give them a more passive AFK way of collecting resources. But this has a dual function, as not only does this allow players to passively collect resources, but it also creates point of interest for people to fight over, as whoever controls this stone deposit controls the stone output from it. I have made three types of triggers, one for stone collection, one for wood collection, and lastly one for gold collection, which all function the same way. Let's take the stone collection as an example. The way the stone collection works is you need to have a miner inside of this yellow area, which is also indicated by the custom ground texture that I've used. But once you have a stone miner inside of this area, a timer will play so that every 25 seconds you will get 50 stone. And this is the same for all of the other things, with some slight changes in how much resources you get. With the wood, for example, you will get 100 wood every 25 seconds, and with the gold you will get 25 gold every 25 seconds. Then we can talk about the village triggers. This is a system I implemented so that players can capture villages back and forth from each other. There are 3 neutral villages, which are these grey ones. With the grey ones you will only capture the tower itself. There is one over here, there is one over here, and lastly there is one out in the water. Then there are these orange villages, which can only be captured once. And for these there are four. There's one over here, there's one up here, there's one down here, and lastly there's one over here. All of these villages have some special features about them, which I will get into later. But first, let's talk about capturing the village itself. The way you capture a village is by first killing all of the yellow units that is inside of that village, which the yellow units are the mercenaries of the orange player. But once all of these yellow units have been killed, the nomadic people would have to send their leader on top of this flag. So let's say that the red player wants to capture this village. First they would have to kill all of the mercenaries, then they would have to take their heroic unit, which is the shining one right here, and place him right on top of this flag. Then he will capture the village. Everything inside of here, the tower, the dojon, all of the houses, the market, the archery range and the blacksmith will become his ownership. When a player captures a village, they will get villagers from the amount of houses that the village has. So this one, for example, has 4 houses, which means that the player will get 4 villagers. Then, like I said before, each village has something special about them. This village, for example, has the market and the blacksmith. What the market does is that when the player sends their heroic unit on top of this flag over here, they will spend 100 food and then a villager will spawn. Of course, the market itself will have to be in the ownership of whoever wants to use it. So if the red player owns this village and the blue player tries to buy a villager, they cannot do that. Then there is the blacksmith down here, which also has its own feature or mechanic, which is first, of course, they have to own the blacksmith itself. Once they own the blacksmith, they can send their heroic unit on top of this flag. Once the heroic unit has been sent on top of the flag, if they have 500 gold, then their heroic unit will get their stats increased. The stats that are increased is 10 HP and 1 attack. So every time they step on top of the flag, they will spend 500 gold and upgrade their heroic unit. This is the same for all blacksmith and all markets that exist around the map. There is one blacksmith over here, there's one blacksmith up here, and there's one blacksmith over here. Then there's another market in this area. There is a siege workshop over here, which I will talk about later. There is nothing special over here. And of course, the player 8 will have his own siege workshop as well, which yet again I will talk about later. And he has a blacksmith down here. But let's talk about the blacksmith itself. Or not the blacksmith, sorry, the siege workshop itself. If I can find it real quick. I'm sorry, this might take some time to find it. Yes, here we have it. Here we have the function for the siege workshop. So, after a player has captured the siege workshop itself, they can send their heroic unit on top of the flag yet again. And if they have 300 wood, then a capped ram will spawn. This is the only way for players to get their hands on siege equipment, such as the capped ram. Now let's go back over here, the gather rate. This is to ensure that the custom resource collection system that I have implemented works properly. As there, for this one, for example, there is a stone deposit hidden within this this model that the players will have to mine from. But normally, a stone miner would collect resources from that stone deposit. So what I have made is that if a player captures any type of village whatsoever, then it will modify the collection rate of the stone miner and the forager to make sure that they are not collecting any type of resources whatsoever, which result in the stone deposit itself having an infinite amount of resources, as it cannot run out due to the fact that whoever is mining from it cannot collect anything. Then we also have some special features for some of the villages. This one, for example, is a farming village. So if a player captures this one, then they will gain. If a player captures this one, then they will gain a tribute of food every once in a while. Then we can get to player 8 triggers. Of course, then we have. Let's go to actually ally player 7, which player 7 is the neutral villages. Of course, if a player captures a village, they probably don't want to end up destroying everything within that village. So this feature is implemented to make sure that if and when a player captures a village, the diplomatic status with player 7, the gray player, is placed to ally, so that they do not accidentally destroy the village itself. Then we can get to player 8 triggers, which is all of the triggers that make sure that player 8 functions as an empire. Firstly, to motivate player 8 to not lose their territory is to motivate the orange player to not lose their territory. I have ensured that each one of the villages gives resources to player 8. So for every village they lose resources. And I believe that is what all of these are, is to make sure that each village gives player 8 some type of resources, and of course enables the functions of capturing back these villages, and of course being able to use the blacksmiths. However, if player 8 loses one of the dojon villages, they cannot capture that village back. Then we have the win condition for each player. Player 8, the orange player for example, will have to kill each and every one of the heroic unit from the nomadic people. Once all of them have been killed, then player 8 is victorious. But for the nomadic people, they have other ways of achieving a victory. For example, the first option is to first capture all of the neutral villages, which there are 3 of. Once all villages has been captured, they are declared victorious. But there's also the option of just capturing all of the dojon villages, which is a bit harder, but it is still an option of winning the game. So the nomadic players can either capture all of the neutral grey villages, or they can capture all of the dojon villages, either which will declare them victorious. Then we have the castle unlock and the imperial unlock. For player 8, the orange player, they are already in castle age, so they do not need a trigger to unlock this. But for the other players, they have 2 ways of unlocking castle age. The first one is by either having 2 dojons, that being this building again. So if a nomadic player has captured 2 dojons, then they will ascend to castle age. But let's say, however, if one player has captured all of the dojons, then they still have an option of just paying a neutral village to gain castle age. What they would have to do is first own the village itself. Then they would have to bring actually, I do not think they need to own the village. All they have to do is they need to bring their heroic unit on top of this flag. They need to have an accumulated resources of 1000 gold. And if both of these requirements are met, then they will pay 1000 gold and unlock castle age. Then it is a similar story for imperial age. A player can either choose to capture 4 dojon villages, or pay 2000 gold in one of the villages. Either one of these options will unlock imperial age for the players. And of course, there are only 4 dojons, and currently the win condition is to own 4 dojons, but, well, like I said, the map isn't quite finished yet. Then player 8, who starts in castle age, his way of unlocking imperial age is by simply waiting out the timer. Once the timer hits 0, the player 8 will be in castle age. And those are all of the triggers that I made for this map. Thanks for watching.